Hey folks, Seth here. As we watch cities burn, statues being torn down, and calls to defund the police, if you haven't already, it may be time to think about personal protection. Guns Etc. has 10,200 square feet of guns, ammo, safes, and a staff that will work with you to find the best firearm for your situation. So stop by their huge store in Mesa or click on gunsetc.com and have access to over $400 million in firearms and accessories. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to 960 The Patriots YouTube channel. Well, welcome back and happy August 3rd, 2020. So today, reading from the website of the Education Protester Movement, quote, in dozens of cities across the country, allied groups of students, parents, educators, and community members have coordinated actions for our National Day of Resistance, close quote. Who are those allied groups? You have the Chicago Teachers Union, you have the Boston Teachers Union, you have the Teachers Union of Los Angeles, you have several more, and then the last group listed, Democratic Socialists of America. One has to wonder why so many teachers would be willing to affiliate with the Democratic Socialists of America. One also has to wonder about how fast things have changed in this country, where so many professionals in the care of our children and our culture would feel and think so brazenly as to just put it right up there in the shop window that they are A, comfortable with, and B, working hand in hand with an avowedly socialist organization, indeed the socialist organization of America. The DSA is not shy about what it believes either, including, from their website, something very familiar to those who know something about the main plank in the Black Lives Matter organization. As the DSA puts it, they stand for, quote, restructuring gender and cultural relationships to be more equitable, close quote. It's always that damned family structure in America that gets in the way of the revolution, isn't it? You remember what the BLM says on its website. Quote, we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable, close quote. Where does this come from? In the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx goes right into this, writing, quote, on what foundation is the present family, the bourgeois family, based? On capital, on private gain. In its completely developed form, this family exists only among the bourgeoisie, close quote. Friedrich Engels himself wrote a whole book on the need to dismantle the family. One can understand the teachers' union's wishes and desires to put more funding into their salaries and other work demands. One can even understand that this is and has been the main project of the Democratic Party in America for quite some time, especially seeing how many unions endorse Democratic Party candidates and work every 4 years to put so many members in and at the Democratic Party conventions. But it now appears the Democratic Party is too soft for them, so much so that they might just as well reveal their true colors and affiliate with the unvarnished and untainted ideal, the Socialist Party in America. If you want to understand now where all this talk from the likes of Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib comes from, about the disrupting and dismantling of our current system, look no farther than the DSA website, where it claims its goal is to be, quote, restructuring of society, close quote. What I'm particularly interested in is how this is no longer just the goal of an increased and normalized number of politicians and lawmakers. It is also evidently something our teachers wish to affiliate with and do. We will get you through your children, Allen Ginsberg told Norman Podhoretz. Well, the getting is happening. I use the present tense, but can't help wonder if it may be better put in the past tense. It's happened. Sure, we've known about this in higher education for some time, and we've tolerated those tares among the wheat there. But that's the problem with tares among wheat. If not cared about and nurtured, the wheat will be overrun. Then we started noticing it in our secondary and primary education systems, didn't we? How much of that has been overrun? Schools started stopping and opening the day with the Pledge of Allegiance. Then they stopped teaching about American founders, then about American history generally, so much so that one of the most popular American history books is Howard Zinn's, and it's not an American history book. It's a socialist communist version of American history. It's the view of American history that was taught in the Soviet Union. It's the view of history we know bin Laden read. It's the view of history that helps you hate America by first distorting America. One might say, borrowing the language from the DSA website, it's a restructuring of our history. So you get to 44% of our nation's 8th graders earning an F in American history, worse than they did the last time they were surveyed 6 years ago. And 50% of our nation's 12th graders achieve an F in American history. Fully half of our students around the age of 18 leave high school alien to, but living in a nation they do not know. The other interesting thing that shows, the longer you stay in school, the less you know about American history. As Joe LeConte puts it, once you don't know your history, how much or so much the easier to be prone to propaganda. Pretty soon you can see, for those willing to see things as they really are, the dialectic and how it emerges here. Start with Milan Kundera, who saw his own nation disappear several times to various versions of socialism. He describes this task as the first step in liquidating a people is to erase its memory, destroy its books, its culture, its history, then have somebody write new books, manufacture a new culture, invent a new history. Before long, the nation will begin to forget what it is and what it was. The world around it will forget even faster." Close quote. You see this through the elimination of our own history and downgraded, if not degraded, patriotism. Then the new books, think Zen, or for that matter, the 1619 Project. We used to teach our founding as freedom and equality. The new dispensation is that our founding was a different date, marking our beginning with slavery and misery. So now when we quote something like Lincoln in speaking of America as the last best hope of earth, or Reagan who saw America as the last best hope of mankind, an entire generation or more has no idea what the hell we're talking about, as they know another America, and not a good one. By the way, one of the founders of the Democratic Socialists of America, Michael Harrington, had a book, his first and probably most important book. It was titled The Other America. This accomplished, you engage in coercive elimination of dissent by stopping dissent or alternative information. Think Harrison Bergeron, or don't think it. Watch how the modes of communication stifle you. As I say this, right now, as I speak, PragerU is locked out of Twitter. Watch how the long march through the institutions go, even into our entertainment or recreation. You can say good things about Maoist China. In fact, you have to. You do so while refusing to stand for the national anthem and face shaming and ridicule if you do stand for the national anthem. And yet, then again, if you say something positive or just express your solidarity with the dissenters in Maoist China or those who fear being taken over by it, you are coerced yet again to apologize. If you play basketball, you must toe the party line. What were the slogans of the party line in the novel 1984? War is peace. That's China. Freedom is slavery. That's exactly how the history of America is rendered today. Ignorance is strength, maintained by a party line that brooks no dissent. Not just in athletics. You see this in political inquiry and debate, too. You see it in the newsrooms, the television shows, even policy discussions. You see it in the management of the editorial pages. You see it even in discussions about science and medicine. You see it in the entire warp and woof of our culture. And it's now taken a new turn. It's one thing to be forced and coerced not to speak or say certain things, not to reveal certain thoughts. Now we enter the new realm of the dialectic. Coercion to say things you may not even believe. Allow me to quote a news story from this morning. Quote, "The Louisville Courier-Journal reported that business owners in the area receiving letters from protesters that included a list of demands to improve diversity in the community and in the workplace. The paper cited a press release that said the letter was delivered by protesters who told one Cuban American to put it on his front door so your business is not effed with. The paper reported that some of the demands laid out in the letter included a minimum of 23% of the staff being black and buying at least 23% of their goods from black-owned retailers, just to name a few. So now you are seeing the compelling of putting up messages, saying things you don't agree with. As Robert Jackson put it, struggles to coerce uniformity of sentiment and support of some end thought essential to their time and country have been waged by many good as well as by evil men. As first and moderate methods to attain unity have failed, those bent on its accomplishment must resort to an ever-increasing severity. As governmental pressure towards unity becomes greater, so strife becomes more bitter as to whose unity it shall be. Probably no deeper division of people could proceed from any provocation than from finding it necessary to choose what doctrine and whose program public education officials should compel youth to unite in embracing. Ultimate futility of such attempts to compel coherence is the lesson of every such effort, from the Roman drive to stamp out Christianity as a disturber of its pagan unity, the Inquisition as a means to religious and dynastic unity, Siberian exiles as a means to Russian unity, down to the fast-failing efforts of our present totalitarian enemies. Those who begin coercive elimination of dissent soon find themselves exterminating dissenters. Compulsory unification of opinion achieves only the unanimity of the graveyard, he continued. Seems trite, but necessary, to say that the First Amendment to our Constitution was designed to avoid these ends by avoiding these beginnings. There is no mysticism in the American concept of the state or of the nature or origin of its authority. We set up government by consent of the governed, and the Bill of Rights denies those in power any legal opportunity to coerce consent. Authority here is to be controlled by public opinion, not public opinion by authority. Close quote. If a Democrat on the Supreme Court to quote, like Robert Jackson, is not good enough, let's try another man imprisoned by communists in Czechoslovakia, Václav Havel. Do you know his 1979 essay, The Power of the Powerless? He describes exactly that which we are seeing in Louisville today, writing about the greengrocer who was forced to put a sign reading "Workers of the World Unite" in his shop window. Havel then wrote this, quote, "That poster was delivered to our greengrocer from the Enterprise headquarters along with onions and carrots. He put them all under the window simply because it has been done that way for years, because everyone does it, and because that is the way it has to be. If he were to refuse, there could be trouble. He could be reproached for not having the proper decoration in his window. Someone might even accuse him of disloyalty. He does it because these things must be done if one is to get along in life. It's one of the thousands of details that guarantee him a tranquil life in harmony with society, as they say. That is the way it has to be. Otherwise, there could be trouble. Disloyalty, the charge of McCarthyism once, is the charge of the New Left now. The teachers of the world or this country seem to have united, now under the banner of the party with a capital P. Just remember the two goals of the party, as Orwell wrote in 1984, quote, "The two aims of the party are to conquer the whole surface of the earth and to extinguish once and for all the possibility of independent thought," close quote. Listen to those who lived through these kinds of things while you can. Read those who wrote about this elsewhere while you can, and do something about it while you can, or we will surely and meanly lose this, the last best hope of Earth. I'm Seth. Lines are open.